Good evening, everybody. What's happening? I got Chris Langell on the show tonight from Wide River Reptiles in Bettendorf, Iowa. If you don't know, Chris is a very big ball python breeder, rodent breeder, coco distributor, dry goods, and still has his own career as well as this thriving business. So we're going to get into all of that tonight. And I'm going to ask him about my favorite question when it comes to rodents. How do you do the math on rodents? We're going to get into secret rodent formulas tonight. He promises he's got the goods for us. So hang out tonight. We got a great show. I'm coming to you from a hotel room in North Carolina because the show goes on. Thanks for being here. Let's get to it. What's happening, everybody? It is 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. I'm on the East Coast doing a show at 8 o'clock. Finally, it's been almost a year since I've done a show from the Eastern time zone. So I'm back in my old North Carolina stomping grounds doing some work for a client. And yeah, in little digs, had to mess around with some lighting, a mirror. Got my fake fish tank behind me for a little, atmosphere. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Chris from Wide River Reptiles out of Bettendorf, Iowa. We'll get into his breeding operation, both for snakes, rodents, multiple revenue streams with dry goods, cocoa, and keeping it all together with his wife as well. So, I mean, keeping the business all together with his wife. I'm sure they're fine together. So I'll introduce you to Chris here very shortly if you're not familiar with him. A couple announcements. First off, thanks to everybody that's checking out the show that might not have known about it. I know Chris did really great extra promotion for the show, so I'm appreciative of that. If you're here and you haven't been here before, usually you just have to imagine racks of snake racks behind me and a desk rather than me waving papers all night, but I don't have anywhere to make my notes. I got to make notes. So I might be doing this. Who knows? But if you enjoy the show, I hope that you'll consider liking, subscribing, all that good kind of stuff. Keep it pretty business focused on reptiles and the ball python industry specifically. Big thanks to Cold Blooded Expos, another great show in Minneapolis this past Sunday. Thanks to everybody that came out. Thanks for those of y'all that purchased from me. But even if you didn't purchase, just thanks for coming by, saying hey, hanging out. Doing revenue is always good, but making connections and relationships on my home field there in Minneapolis, I couldn't have imagined that business would be, I'd be this welcomed and established in less than a year. So thanks so much to the Minneapolis crowd. Cold Blooded Expos, really nice job. Speaking of nice job and good expos, I'll be in Eau Claire, Wisconsin this coming Sunday. I'll get back from North Carolina and then go to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. That is for Ed and Emily's Snake Discovery Show. Always fun. I had a really great show at that one last year as well. So if you're in the area, hopefully you will come out to Eau Claire, Wisconsin on Sunday. Snake Discovery Show. I got hatchlings, man. They're out. So I've got Axanthic, 100% het clown. No combos or no codoms in those, but visual Axanthic, VPI, het clowns. Those are available. I have one female visual left, and then the double hets are all left as well. I also have visual Axanthic VPI het pieds. Those are available. And on the 28th, I should be cutting 2 more clutches, and we should start to see if I hit more, not if, there'll be more hypo combos, more Axanthic het clown combos, and clown het Axanthic combos coming up. So anyhow, heavy Axanthic clown season, and those will have codoms in them as well. So stay tuned. You could check out properroyals.com. My name tag in the bottom, that's not my email. That's just who I am, Adam at properroyals.com. I should clarify that. I should just call myself properroyals.com looking at it. Anyway, check out the website, properroyals.com. All the hatchlings will be on there. The Patreon gets first dibs at those. If you check out the Patreon, the top 2 tiers go all build store credit. All your money goes back to you in the form of future snakes. So now's the time. Check it out on the Patreon. And then after the Patreon gets their shot at it, all the animals go to properroyals.com. And then the live shows, of course, as well, too, or the expos. It is Daytona weekend. I was in Florida a week off. I had some family commitments. I had to go visit my dad, bring my son down to go see his grandfather and my father. So we spent a lot of time together. 3 generations of Shires hanging out, but I had to do it last week. I couldn't do it this week. So I hope you all have a blast at Daytona. I got to give a little shout out here, and going to play a brief video. It doesn't have sound, so I'm just going to talk over it. I'll just narrate it. But Jeremy Bod, Steve Casino, 2 really good friends, really helpful mentors and guides to me, so to speak, especially when I was starting out. Those guys are amazing. A couple Florida guys down in the Tampa Bay area. If you don't know them, go check out Bod's Exotic Reptiles. That's Jeremy Bod. And Steve Casino is, what is that called? Steve Snakes, I think. I should know this. Just put in Steve Casino in Morph Market. You'll get it. They put this vintage BMX bike together, then had it powder coated, all decked out for US ARC. It's going to be on auction. Let me hit play here and check this thing out. Look how cool this thing is, man. It also is completely functional. So it's got all the nice trick hardware on it. You see that brake rotor up front there, total vintage BMX style, man. Those wheels, look at them popping, man. The bright blue wheels. The US ARC, the pads obviously aren't, but the US ARC stickers are all under the clear coat. So powder coated and then clear coated over. Check that out. US ARC right on the back of the seat as well. Nicely done on the chrome and everything. That's going to be donated to the auction. So if you go down this weekend, make sure that you hang out. I'm going to give it to you one more time here for 20 seconds. If you got to go to that auction afterwards. I got to think this bike is going to fetch. It's going to get well into the 5 figures is what I really think. I can't wait to see what they do. Jeremy did up a guitar that he got from me a couple years ago, and that's brought in a lot of money to US ARC. I hear that actually is going to be on the auction block again this year, but now this bike. So Jeremy and Steve really outdid themselves on this. How cool is this, huh? Yeah, Rick knows what he's talking about when he sees it. White, oh yeah, the white mag wheels. That's right. Yeah, the wheels on the inside of the tires too are just killer. So anyhow, nice job on that. I'm sure if you really want it and you want to throw down the money, that there's a way to dial in, call in the bids as well. I can't imagine that they would turn down any bids of any kind. So get in touch with US ARC if you want to figure out how to do that from a distance or virtually or anything like that. So yeah, that's the announcements. Like I say, thank you all for being here. I met Chris and his wife Jerri. I had just moved to Minneapolis. I should learn how to pronounce it, shouldn't I? I had just moved to Minneapolis, and I didn't really know many people, and I knew I was a new guy in a market. And I remember being the new guy in the Florida shows, and there was a bunch of cool people that supported me. But there was also a few people that were pretty aggressive and undermining and all of that in my Florida days on that circuit. And so I was a little bit, I wouldn't say sensitive. I just didn't know what I was getting into in Minneapolis. And so I've been in that show. That was actually my second show, I think, in Minneapolis. Anyway, Chris and Jerri were vending catty corner to me. They made time to come over, introduce themselves. They're very gracious, complimentary of the show, but welcome me to the area, that kind of thing. So we got to hang out a little bit at that show. And then when I got my rodent business started, I actually worked with Joe at JSA, Joe Atchison. And he said, hey, I know where these phenomenal ASFs are down in Iowa. If you are going to build colonies and build an operation, these are really the folks that you need to talk to. And again, Chris and Jerri really helped me out. Beautiful stock, by the way. If you want if y'all have ever heard me talk about the ASFs that I really love, it's from their stock. I got it. I did source some from 3 different suppliers, but about 80% was from theirs. And I've since fed off all the other suppliers. That's it. It's just theirs. So I love those ASFs. Really fantastic. And we've done some other business along the way. And Chris has always been helpful to me. I hope I've been helpful to him. So enough of talking about somebody in the third person while they're waiting patiently behind the scenes. Let's get Chris on the show from Bettendorf, Iowa. Chris Langle from Wide River Reptiles. Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being patient through my rambling intro. I always forget that the guest is sitting there listening to me while I'm talking about this. Such an awkward thing. But thanks for all the help, man. That was just genuine. I'm really appreciative of how kind you've been to me and looking out and all that, man.
Well, anytime, and that's something the industry needs is to work together. And as you were talking about the U.S. ARC bike, and that's what it's all about is getting stuff so the industry survives.
Yeah, it's really amazing both how much money can be generated from something cool like that, but then if we start to think about it, to pay good lawyers, to pay for airfare, travel, media, all the technology that goes with running US ARC and helping us out, it takes a lot of money. So I mean, I really, as much as I like promoing with the cool things that people are doing, I just hope everybody really takes the time to make sure they're considering what they're able to give to US ARC and just how important they are. I had both Billy and Robert Vanderclay from Canada on, and they both lament that there's nothing in Canada like that, and like US ARC and the limitations that they face. I mean, we have it really well here, and part of that's from US ARC. So Chris, for people that don't know you or haven't met you or need to know you, give yourself an introduction here. Take a few minutes and introduce yourself.
Okay. So Wide River Reptiles, we're in Bettendorf, Iowa. So if you know where that is, it's on the Mississippi River. That's where our name comes from, is Wide River, because we're on the Mississippi River. So if you're ever like, why is he called Wide River? That's why. And so we're on the biggest river in the in the United States. There, and then we do have the rodent business. We call the rodent business the Reptile Bistro. It's a little different, and just the reason why we have 2 different businesses, if you're in Iowa and you want to know, is it's the legal stuff for the state of Iowa. If when we got into it, and Iowa's changed their code as the first of the year, which is great. But when we got into it, if you sold 6 animals or $600 worth of animals in Iowa, you had to have a pet store license, and that had to be inspected. And so your facility, so they'd come to the house or wherever you have your snakes, and they would look, make sure all the wood is water sealed, yada, 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 just like they would inspect a pet store.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. And the first of the year they changed that, so that's great for anybody coming into the industry or anybody that didn't do the way that they want it done.
Yeah. So, and when you say it changed at the first of the year, so they've eliminated the inspections, or is it that they raised the number? What changed?
They eliminated the need, if you're selling reptiles, to have a pet store license if you're doing it if it's just a little side business and you don't have a brick and mortar front.
Okay.
So if you're not brick and mortar where people can walk in, as I'm sure you don't let people walk into your facility and buy snakes daily. I mean, you're not open for business. So right. That, and then, so as if you're in the rodents, the racks are made out of wood. So if you had to go through and water seal all your rodent racks and stuff like that, that'd be a huge expense if you were using the wood ones and weren't using, the commercial line racks. Right. So that's the reason we have 2 businesses there.
And I'm sorry, I'm not connecting the dots of why it needs to be 2 businesses. Was one
because then the rodents don't need the facilities inspected just as a facility, because we have rodents that cross state lines, but they don't come in for a pet store license. And if you have a pet store, any exposed wood has to be water sealed.
I see. So the reptiles were the pet store, and the
Yes,
rodent. So it was classified. So the law was classified by rodent, by reptile.
that is correct. Well, the law was classified. Yeah. So if you're selling something as a pet, so then we sell our rodents as feeders, not as pets.
I see. I see. Okay. That's actually kind of a good exercise in really understanding the nuances of a law. There was something I ran into in Wisconsin where most people just said, "Well, I'm not gonna deal with Wisconsin anymore." And actually, credit to Rick, he and I kind of picked apart the law and said, "Well, here's what they're looking for, and here's the hurdles we have to get over. Let's figure this out." And like you say, maybe you have to start two businesses instead of one, but and that's a pain, but that's really a one-time pain. I mean, it's not that big
It
of a
is.
deal to have two businesses versus one. You're still counting money in and money out, you know?
Right. Yep. Exactly. So
So, what species on snakes do you deal with? Is it all ball pythons, or do you have multiple species?
we've only bred ball pythons as of today. We do have some spotteds growing out. Eric over at ECW, he's a good friend of mine. He's gave me a couple corns, so I have a couple corns here that I might pair down the road. But right now they're kind of just here in the facility, for something to look at, a little different.
Yeah,
And then we have some sand boas that are, also we're here for fun, but never know if we'll ever pair those up down the road or whatever.
right,
But
right.
strictly, we're on ball python. I mean, ball pythons is obviously 99.9% of what we do for reptile related.
Gotcha. And give us a little bit of an idea of the scale. How many animals or how many clutches are you expecting this year? And what's kind of the next year or
Uh,
two look like for you?
yeah, this year is way down. Unfortunately, I lost my stepmother this year, and my wife lost
Oh, sorry.
my mother. And
Wow.
within 30 50 days of each other. So our breeding season this year unfortunately is not here. We have 3 clutches in the incubator, but in the past we've done our peak season was 103 pairings with 84 clutches.
Holy
um,
cow. Okay, so that's
yeah,
moving. Yeah.
yeah, so now we're way down this year. It's not a bad thing in our mind with what we had going on family wise. um,
Right.
as you know, sometimes family trumps anything going on in life. Yeah,
It
because
should. Yeah.
yep.
Good or
So
bad, but yeah.
yep. So, but no, going forward, we're expecting to get back on the horse, and we're gonna, looking at some things. We're big into the ultramel. As I stay low key sometimes, but I've got. I should say, my wife handles all of it. As you know, I work a job, so she's handles all the things. It's her full time thing. But we've got Ultramel Clown, Ultramel Pied, Ultramel Desert Ghost, Ultramel Paints on the way, and I'm probably forgetting one in there. But we have the Ultramels double recessives going to be popping here next year for sure. If not some this year, if some of the girls still go.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. People didn't know you or weren't paying attention. That whole rundown right there will get the
Yeah.
attention on that. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I only have 2 shots, but I got 2 shots at some Ultramel clowns this year. So in the next 60 days, we'll see. We'll see if that happens or if it's another year.
Well, one of the big ones that I'm waiting for this year is I got a GHI female. She's het ultramel, possible het clown, and then I paired her to a male I picked up from Ozzy. That is, let me look over here. He's right here next to me. Uh, so he's an OD Fire Mojave double het ultramel clown
Oh, okay.
to a GHI. So if I make some GHI Mojave ultramel clowns, if she proves out to be a het clown, first, she's got to give me the eggs, though. First, she's got to give me the eggs.
Right. Yeah, you're counting a lot of things. So you're counting that she's going to prove hat and that you're going to get eggs. All right. Now, let
That's
me
the
ask
fun
you
of
this.
it. That's the fun of it.
It
Right
is the
there.
fun of it. Well, and that leads into this question. With animals of that caliber and a project that big, why are you still messing around with possible clown? Like, why not test and find out? Or was it something you were going to pair either way? You didn't
Oh,
care.
Okay. I mean, so I started. We'll get into a little more history. So we started. When we started, we didn't go in and buy the high dollar animals or anything like that. And when we got into it, Morph Market had like 4,000 animals on it. And
And I'm sorry, how long ago was that?
2015, 2016, we had our first clutch in 2017.
Okay, cool. All right, so you were ahead of the boom.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I started small, and then as people that bought animals from me, they start vending shows, and then I I don't feel I shouldn't say obligated, but what I do is like if they've bought from me years and they hadn't vended a show, and then they're vending a show, and they've got an animal I want, or I can help them out. That female was picked up from a previous customer of mine.
Oh, cool.
And we'll get into the coco husk, but he needed some bedding, and I traded him the snake for some bedding. And so that's how those things come about. You know what I mean? And
Right,
so
right.
yeah, why are you messing with a possible het clown? It's just the way I've done things, and it's kind of fun to me.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, I wasn't knocking you for
No, no,
acquiring a possible het clown. We all get by on however we can get by. I'm with you. And there's a whole good show topic in the different kinds of currencies that you just described is a great example. I meant moreover, like after the fact. Surely she's shed since then. You could find out if you
oh, I
wanted to,
could.
is what I'm saying.
Yep, yeah,
That's the
totally,
part I was
definitely could.
giving you trouble about. Yeah, not
Yeah,
not acquiring it. No, I'm not.
no, no, oh
I don't
yeah,
deal
no,
in snobbery that way.
no, yeah, well, yeah, I definitely could test her out. And if we don't get any clown, maybe I will go test.
Sure.
And I'll be honest, I'm not. So when back in the day, and I wanted to get into ultramel, I had a spider head ultra. I bought a spider head ultramel and bred it to a visual ultramel. Had a couple clutches. Never got an ultramel out of that, but it's a visual to a het. Sold the snake, and I told them, "Hey, here's the story on the snake." Get a message a year later. Hey, I got ultramels.
Oh, oh my
So
gosh.
sometimes it's just bad luck. You know what I mean?
Man, 2 years of 50% odds and you didn't get
Yeah.
any?
No, no.
Oh my gosh.
Don't
Oh,
play the lottery, right?
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Or you go play the lottery and I'll buy the ticket behind you, kind of. Yeah, actually, I'm going to go with you.
Right.
um, yeah, there's a lot of the more of those stories out there than there should be. It seems like sometimes with the odds, but no. And I was asking too because I think like yeah, from a practicality standpoint, testing is great. From a financial standpoint, it probably is great. But you're right. There is some fun in the anticipation and figuring it out. And my own personal rule is if I would have paired them regardless of what the outcome of the test is, then I'm not going to test. I'll find out and get the enjoyment of it. Now, if it makes a difference of whether I would have paired them, then generally I'll go ahead and test.
Yeah, I probably would have paired them anyway, just
Yeah.
because that'd be my GHI that's head ultramel to a Mojave. That head ultramel, he has Mojave in him, so make the GHI Mojave ultramels.
Yeah, those will be. I mean, so they're going to come out just like purple, huh?
Yeah, I would. That's what I'm expecting. Yeah, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some out
Well,
there, and I probably should look, but that's one of
well,
those
maybe
things when
not.
you talk about having time to do, and I just know, and like I said, I've laid low key, and I've always just done what I've wanted to do in the industry, and kind of play with the pairings I want to do.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and if you hit the clown in there too, that's even going to be you're going to get a whole lot more pattern back than just the. I mean, the purple by itself is going to be incredible, but you get the clown, you're going to get some crazy pattern with it as well. And I think that there's value, and I like what you're saying about doing what you do. Sometimes we get way too caught up in all the noise out there. I was talking to somebody this week, and like I don't surf Morph Market a whole lot. I'll do research for pricing things, and I'll do it sometimes to get inspiration if I'm trying to make pairing decisions. But I get almost overwhelmed. Like there was a time when I almost didn't like Instagram anymore just because all I saw was like the very best things that every other person was doing. And I was like, what the hell what am I, where am I going to fit in on this? So sometimes I have to put those blinders on myself for kind of what you're talking about. So when did the rodents are a really big part of the conversation tonight. Tell us a little bit about the rodent operations. Where and when did those come along? And then when I say it came along, I'll let you describe your facility. But I think without exception, that's the largest rodent facility I've ever been in. And I've been around a little bit, not a whole lot, but go ahead, tell us about the rodent operation.
Yeah. So one year, as we grew, we spent X amount of dollars in frozen rodents, and I figured, okay, I got to figure out how to reduce my cost
Right.
of just having this, and especially with Jerri, my wife, wanting to do this full time and make it a living off of it. I had to figure out, drop expenses so that can become income, right? That's how you
Yeah.
roll. So I was helping a friend clean some rodents a little bit, and so I kind of had an idea how it worked, and and he was gracious enough to help me build some racks and get started. Um, they're no longer in the industry, but they helped me out at the beginning great immensely. And then we decided, well, we'll get a one car garage. So we had a family member. I'm not going to get into that either, but if you have family do stuff, just make sure you keep an eye on it. So unfortunately, yeah, no, it's in. So if you're asking for business advice on rodents, people don't understand the work that's in those, the labor. It's labor
Yeah.
intense. They're high metabolism, so they're going to eat and drink water, eat food and drink water. They need to be cared for, and sometimes if you expect somebody else to do it, they don't care as much as you care about your business. I'll leave it at that. So we started in a one car garage, producing our own stuff and having some help with family member, and then we had to move out of that. So I moved into the building I'm in now, rented the first front half, and people, you know what I'm talking about because you've been to the building.
Yeah.
So we rented the front half, and then the gentleman that I talking to you and his wife that helped me get started, I actually partnered with them in the rodent business when I moved it down, and he moved his one car garage basically and our one car garage, and combined it and started the business. Then when they exited the business, bought them out, and
I see.
became 100%, of the rodent facility, and from there, it did start with, hey, I've got, can I buy some rodents from you? Can I buy some rodents from you? And it starts out trickling in, and you're like, okay, and then you go, and then it just keeps word of mouth, just like
Yeah.
Joe telling you. I mean, if I'm known all the way up in Minnesota, and Joe's telling you, and you're coming to me, that's how it works, and it just keeps growing.
That's I should have highlighted that more. I would have had no idea the geographics of Bettendorf to Minneapolis because of the way the roads are. It's 5 hours each way, and Joe was like, "Yeah, that's who I get. That's who you need to source your breeders from, and the line you need." I was like, "All right, let's do it. Let's figure it out." And then there came an opportunity for you and I to do a little business not too long ago, and I said, let me figure this out. And I even think somewhere in the conversation, you're like, well, you're going to come here first. I was like, yeah, I promised them the good stuff. And you're like, all right, I got it, man. This is good for you and for me. I said, I know, we got to make it happen. So, hey, speak of the devil, man, you say his name 3 times and there he pops
There
up,
he is.
Joe's always watching wherever he's at. That's what I've learned. Joe always
There's
knows what's going on.
Beetlejuice, yeah.
Yeah, in his backyard. Joe keeps an eye on us all, man, in a good way, and I mean that. Hey, a couple of questions though, because this is something that I'm starting to explore. Tell me how the experience or how the process went of renting a building, and of course, eventually the landlord has to realize that you got a rodent farm in there.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like? How's that go?
Yeah. So going into it, I knew I needed to be in an industrial type of area. Start either on the edge of an industrial or something where the smell could not be a complaint or a
Right.
factor, of that situation. You know what I mean?
And yeah,
So
and I'm sorry, how square footage roughly? How big is that facility?
roughly 5,000.
5,000. Okay, good. That's what I was like. This is a big facility. 5,000. Okay. All right. So you have a mansion of a rodent farm, and you're going to rent it from this industrial farmer. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, of course, calling around first and looking for a building, and you tell them you're going to do rodents, and all they picture is rats running everywhere loose, right? Not in cages, nothing of that. I
Right.
mean, especially when we're breeding snakes, people are like, "You got snakes crawling around your house?" No, I don't have snakes crawling around
No.
my
Yeah.
house. But anyway, uh, so they just picture this. Luckily, this building uh, needed a little work. I told the guy, hey, whatever it is, I'm raising rodents. I'm not looking to have a fancy building or anything like that. I just need to be able to have airflow. And so he was kind of skeptical at first. I'm not going to lie. So he's like, okay, let's get it in here. And then him and his wife came and took a tour when I first got set up. And it was small then at that time. And he was impressed. And then he'd come down and talk to me, and he'd show up sometimes when I was down at the building. I think he was driving by, I saw my car there, which was cool. It's fine with me, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody else had told me no in the world. Uh, so he was amazed at it. And then he's gotten older, and his son has taken over being the landlord. And his son, the same situation. He came to me one day and he's like, "Man, Dad told me what you were going to be doing here." And he was like, I was kind of skeptical, but he's like, it just blows their mind because they're not in the industry and they have no
Right.
idea. So the building is, where the exhaust goes out to. There's no houses, there's no other buildings. It's basically railroad tracks where the exhaust fans go out to. So by the time the wind blows it or whatever, it's all dissipated. The
Yeah.
little bit of smell that a rodent facility does put off. Yeah. But yeah.
And how long have you been there now?
Ooh, 4 years, I think. In
Okay.
actually, probably this month, I think I either signed the lease in July or August. Yeah.
Gotcha. And if you wish to share, maybe you don't. How in that setting? How long did you go? Like year by year, or did you say up front, "Hey, I can make this worth your while for a 3-year lease"? Or is that something that you can share any insight to? Or how'd
Yeah.
you get like the deal done?
So, well, I did rent. The way I got the deal done was saying I'd do some of the work to the building, which in commercial uh, real estate, a lot of that time that's your responsibility anyway. But
Right.
um, do some of the work, and then all the build out stuff, of course, was all my expense. And then I signed the 1-year lease for the front half, and it was just I paid some other stuff too to get the deal done. And then when the back half became available, we just agreed on a price, and since then it's been month to month. So,
Oh,
and I mean, he's not gonna do anything, and I'm not gonna do anything. So I think
yeah.
we're on that agreement. His son's very nice, and I don't see him. Now you might be, everybody out there might be, well, you're setting yourself up for an issue down the road. I could be, but anytime if you read any lease, pretty much if the landlord sells the building or anything, no matter what your lease is, you're out. So
Yeah. And I hear you when people say you're setting yourself up for failure. I will tell you, uh, I, I mean, I have agreements. I have no contracts with any of the people that I do business with, and I like it that way. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm worried that I'm gonna have to sue somebody, I probably don't want to do business with them in the first place. Now, setting out and getting a building, of course, you're going to have a lease to begin with. But if you can evolve to that point where it's a good relationship, I mean, like you say, you've always got risk. At some point, you got to trust somebody, and you gotta put your faith in something. So
right.
that's been my experience. It does bite us sometimes. I've had failed relationships, and most of them are very good, though, for sure. How many, and maybe you don't, maybe it's just too exorbitant to even have an idea. How many, do you have an idea of how many rodents a year you either breed or sell? I mean, how,
Yeah,
just for fun, like, could you even
I,
venture a guess?
I probably can't guess on a number I breed a year, but and I know I should have some of that information for formula reasons, but I don't. But ASFs, I probably I don't know. Rats, we're probably weaning, and this is some get cold before wean size, but I know we've got to be weaning at least 1,000 rats a week,
Yeah.
just the Norway
Okay.
rats, um, at least,
And that's just
and
one
it's probably
species.
higher. Yeah, yeah, and it's probably higher than that if I look at it, but we're there's always something coming up, and let's see here. We just did a calculation. I just did it last night, and I wish I had the number in front of me. But we counted how many breeder females we had in the front half, the original half of the building, last night, and it was just at like 1,000, I think. Breeder females are in that front half of the building.
Oh, and that's
So
just rats, or that's all?
that's
That's
just
all
the regular rats.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's okay.
You
Oh
know,
my
some
gosh.
Yeah, I counted the ones that were still in with the males. Then I counted the maternity tubs, and then the ones that are in what we call pup tubs, where they're growing from pups to weaned. And I think we were just at 1,000. I think it was 1,040 or something we counted last night. And it wasn't even for
Jeez.
the show. I was doing something else. I was doing something
Yeah.
else with my math brain. I had to calculate out something because working on another deal. I don't know if it'll ever come through, but working on another deal possibly that could be huge for us in the rodents. And I got to put my pencil to paper and figure out how many breeder females I need to supply this if it comes through. I'm hoping to get half of the contract, maybe.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, good luck to you on that. I hope it does. And if it's the right, deal, I
Yep,
hope it
yep.
works. Okay. On and I realize sometimes this relies on what equipment people have, but in your perfect world, what's the sweetest ratio for? Give me the best ratio for rat colony and for ASF colonies. Mice, I don't care about. I'm joking. You can give us mice too if you want. What's your sweetest spot on ratios for those breeders?
For breeding, okay. So the ASFs, and we use the maternity rack, the stainless steel ones out there. Um, the 1 to 3 in the tubs there, so one male to 3 females. We experimented with the white, what I call their rat tubs, but I call them mouse tubs. The white mouse tubs, the ones with the grate on top and the water bottle. I
Okay.
experimented with those. I did a 1 to 5 in those. I've done the 1 to 3 in the maternity rack, cis rat. It's a rat maternity rack, is what they call it. I did 1 to 3 on those, and then in the black concrete tubs that people know, I did a 2 to 12 in there to see what to work best for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 2 to 12s, when you first put in the colonies and the moms all have babies, and you have, and I'm not kidding. One time, our niece that works down at the rat facility and runs a lot of it for us, she counted, and there was over 100 fuzzy ASFs in one tub.
Oh
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
So that works. But once they start getting a couple litters in, for some reason, the 2 to 12 doesn't work for me. I don't know why. Maybe I don't
Wow.
know. So the 1 to 3 is what works best for us in the ASFs.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
so the rodent or the rats, the Norway rat, we do the maternity system. So we have females in a concrete tub with one male, and that kind of moves down the row. We start at one end with the female and the males. As the babies are weaned, they move down the row to where they're pregnant. So every time we clean it, we start on the the left side, right? And the first 2 racks are probably mostly pregnant. You pull those moms out, and then everything moves down. and then but the male stays there. So that way, in our facility, the female sees at least, very minimum, sees 3 different males in case one of them's not doing their job.
Okay. Yep.
And then they go out to the maternity tub where they have their litters, and then once they get fuzzy or pup size, we grab 3 moms with like size rodents, throw them into the what we call pup tubs, which is the black concrete tubs, and we raise them up to wean, and then starts the cycle over.
So you're on the, and I don't raise rats at all. So you're constantly sorting and moving rats around.
Yep, twice a week.
Did you say twice a week?
Twice a week. Yep.
Yep. And then on your ASFs, do you retire them by age? Do you retire them by productivity, or do you pay attention at all, or is it just a straight calendar? What do you do?
We pay attention to both exactly both what you said. So when we start getting ones that are getting close to a year old, we're going to start watching, and they're probably going to be going.
Okay, so you go.
Actually, I shouldn't say a year old.
I
shouldn't say a year old. I should say they've been in the breeding for a year, because it takes them a little bit to get to breeding size. So they're probably, 15 months old as an animal. Yeah. But they've been breeding for a year usually. Now, we do have a system though where if we got, if there's 3 females in there, now we've weaned every ASF out of that for some reason, we tag it weaned and we put the date on it, and we tag that tub. So that way, as we're going through, and if it's 2 weeks later and that piece of tape is still on that area, on that tub, marking that tub because we pulled it off, put it on the clean tub, whatever, but it stays with that colony.
Right.
So if we get, if we have that on there and it's been weaned and nothing looks pregnant, and it's been 3 weeks and there's nothing in there and nothing looks pregnant, they go. And so it's both age and productivity. If we tag you and you haven't given me anything, I don't know why I'm feeding you.
Yeah, space is a premium. Interesting way of simplifying that. I'm really glad I asked that question. I spend a lot of time tracking my productivity as a whole, but even with only the 50 colonies that I have, keeping track of each individual production is really not. It's not. I haven't done it, put it that way. But that quick visual marker that can be there, a different color for 1 week, second week, a second color. Like you say, the third time comes around, there's still no babies, and you got 2 dots. You got to go.
We take a piece of masking tape and write on it weaned, and we'll just use today's date, 8/13, right? Stick it on the front of the tub. Well, next week you go to clean that tub, you pull it out, and there's still no babies in there. Peel off that tape, put it on the new one, and then if you get into September and you pull that tub out and it still says weaned on 8/13 and there's nothing in there, then you're like, oh, I got a problem.
Oh,
but if they have pinks, then you just take off the masking tape and throw it away because you're not
started over, right? Yep. What about the odd ones every now and again that will say you start with a 1.3, you open the tub one day, you got a 1.2, one of them's gone, whether it be violence, something weird, who knows what. What do you crash those all together? Do you replace it, or do you just let them continue as a 1.2?
We'll let them continue. The reason why is that with the sheer number of rodents, we always figure 10% loss, whether it's failure to thrive, they fight, one decides they don't like the other one, which happens with rodents.
It does.
So as long as we've got, now if there's 3 females in there and they kill the male, we're not going to put in another male because we figure we're going to kill the next one. But in your example, so in your example where we use the one, if you had a 1.2, we'd let him ride.
Yeah. Shoot, what was I going to ask? I had one more. The question everybody asks about ASFs, the moms that eat their babies. What's the secret? Well, give us I know that everybody's got their secret answer for it, but what's your sort of philosophy on that? And how do you prevent it? And do you see it as preventable, or is it just something that comes with the territory?
It's going to come a little bit with the territory, but just like any rodent, if you have one that bites you, it needs to go. So if you have, because the people don't believe it, I'm a firm believer of it. If I have a rodent that bites me and their offspring sees that, they are intelligent creatures. I don't care what anybody says. They're going to see that I pulled back or it stopped me from touching them or whatever, right? That's going to be traded down. If that thing is mean, the offspring are good chance going to be mean, especially if it's the female, right? That's with them all the time. So in that situation, so both if we have a rodent bite us, or if we have we think that they're killing their babies, we will eventually try to get rid of that colony, and we also kind of watch where their babies go, so they don't get raised up to go back into they'll get sold to people that are feeding their snakes.
They're feeders, yeah.
Yep.
I hadn't thought about it in the way of them teaching the biting or aggressive behaviors, but what I did find was that my weans, if I leave a few smalls in my weaned tubs, I find that the babies that I just weaned figure out how to eat and drink more quickly, because I believe it's because of the smalls that are in there that have thrived, obviously gotten big enough to be smalls, that they're following the lead of they're almost the teachers. I leave 5 or 6 of the one size up every time I put in when I sort them out. So that makes sense also from the behavioral standpoint as well, or the aggressive behavioral standpoint as well, I think.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough the whole time that I've been breeding and cleaning them. I've only had one female Norway that she literally attacked my hand when I put it in the tub. Yeah, and she got the end of my finger pretty good, and I bled all over the floor. But that is something you don't want to have in your facility. And I mean, people are like, "Oh, is rats bite?" They don't. I can tell you, people that work for me definitely know they don't bite, and we keep it that way.
Yeah, I've only gotten bit a couple times, but I always use garden gloves. People laugh at me. They're like, "You raise it with your gloves?" I'm like, "Man, I got gigs on the weekend. I got to be able to play guitar.
Yeah,
I can't have
you play guitar.
I can't have these. These can't get into a rodent's mouth." So, but I'll tell you, when they bite those gloves, even still, I feel it and I pull back. And sometimes they've latched, like the rodent goes flying because it's latched on. Thank God I had the glove on when that happened.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think that covers my, what's the magic math on how many, like what percentage to sell and what to keep? And I don't necessarily mean it as like holdbacks that you're going to continue to breed, but if, say you have 100 mediums and you have a demand for all 100, clearly you can't sell all 100 because next week those clients are going to be disappointed. So what do you have to keep in stock to make sure, or how do you make sure that, because the name of the game is being reliable for the customer, so they always come back to you every week rather than having to do the repeat, man, who's got ASFs this week? Nothing. People will pay money just not to do that, I think.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's a good one.
That's the math question. Yeah. That's the one.
No, I got you here.
Everybody's like, well.
So, this time of year, we got a duck going off somewhere. I don't know what that is. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that is. So this time, there's a certain point of the year where females are off feed for the snakes, right? And at that point is when I know I need to freeze pups and my weaned and my smalls for when the females come back on feed for my customers, that I can sell almost every live rat that I have, that other than managing what I need to hold back. With the amount that we do, I don't have the problem that I used to have, which is what you're talking about. I would sell. And I'm not gonna lie. This, when I first started out, I'd sell too many or what have you, and then and I did turn some customers away, and just said, "Hey, we can't." It was great when I knew that I was getting the other back half of the building and that the other tenant was moving out, and I'd already talked to the landlord about expansion, and I already had customers lined up for the expansion side when it was done, just because they were waiting for somebody that could produce rodents on a reliable basis. It's one of the things that people do struggle with is out there as a snake breeder is finding somebody with a consistent supply.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I wanted to get there, and it's been, I had to do a lot of thought into that. And, one of the things I figured out was freezing pups. I'm sure we got at least 2,000 pups in the freezer right now, because we know hatching season is upon us. And I'll be selling live pups, and then the frozen are just a supplement, through whoever wants frozen through that, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a very hard math to know how to sell. If you got a tens, I don't know what that.
That's so funny.
I don't know what that is. Not my house.
I was trying to see if it was from here, but I mean, I got earbuds, and there's certainly not a duck in the hotel.
It's over the computer. I don't know what that is. So what you're going to hold back is, oh man, we did get away from selling frozen for a while and just did a live, so that way we could do that supply, and we'd go down there. The nice thing is we do keep a certain number is supposed to be in each tub of what's growing out for smalls to weaned. And if you know that, hey, I sell 400 medium a week, if that's what you sell, that means you got to keep 400 smalls to turn into medium.
That's right.
If I'm selling 400 small and 400 medium, that means when they're wean size, I need to keep 800. So 400 gets sold as small, 400 gets sold as medium, or what have you. And then you just need a buffer. And of course, you want to add in that 10% loss. So and it was hard. I'm not going to lie, it was hard. But I'm grateful for the customers that I do have and that worked with me through some of those pains. But it's something that you have to work hard to balance out. It's not easy. And it's not easy because not everybody needs the exact same amount of rats every week.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You're dealing with Mother Nature here. She's going to do what she does too. Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely one of the hard things to do. What the exact math is, we've got it pretty well now, where and it's nice. What we call the expansion side is where we try to sell most our live out of, and then the front side is what we use for our collection, our snake collection, and then also the freeze. So as long as I can produce, and then that also supplements, if I know the front area, the front part of the room building is for my use and to freeze, well then if I short mediums one week, I can just go over and pull them, and then I'm not freezing them that week.
You got your backup.
Yeah, and that's just, I'm lucky enough to be the size I am now to do that.
Yeah, I'll say I've found that and I've had to learn from the bumps, and I'm still learning. And I have a relatively small number of customers, but the consistent income is fantastic. It hedges the markets of the ball pythons for sure. And then secondly, as much as you might want to take the revenue from a new customer, knowing that those consistent people are going to call, and like you say, it could go up, it could go down a little bit, but knowing that they're there and them knowing that you're going to have it for them, it's a really, really strong relationship, man. I've really come to value that.
Yep. And then if you can, I'm lucky enough to have a way to get rid of some excess frozen if I had to, through a wholesale market. Um, it it's not something I want to do, because obviously I've put the pencil to the paper, and it's one of those that it's better to get something than nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's not. But if I do end up having to ship out because the freezers are full, it's better than buying a new freezer. It's better than the rodents going to waste.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's the ultimate thing is doing your best not to waste anything. Especially you never want to waste things in business, but especially with an animal.
And we do donations to some wildlife. So if anybody out there is listening, like US Ark or whatever, and you're ever like, hey, I need to donate some money, to something. We have two rescues that we work with. They rescue birds or whatever that they rescue, and they are bobcats or owls, and they need to feed their stuff. So, yeah.
You have a dog with the dog?
No, and my dog's deaf. My dog's deaf, so he hardly ever barks. So I don't know why he decided to bark there.
Oh, that was the dog. Again. I was like,
somebody's
wait a minute,
doing it. Somebody's got to be doing that. Somebody's got to be hitting the laugh. Is that Joe? I don't know. I got to give Joe.
I honestly have started to think it's something with these earpods is picking up a frequency from my voice or something. It's the only other variable. There's no ducks out here either. Anyway, let's hold that for just a second. I gotta speaking of paying some bills, I gotta pay some bills with the sponsors. But audience, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna talk to Chris about. Obviously, his wife plays a massive role in this. You mentioned earlier that she's full-time on that. And as much as I love rodents, we got to talk some snakes and that business too. So we'll get to that in just a second. Guys, check out REDLINE Shipping. If you haven't, they're a great resource for our community for shipping live animals. Their care is fantastic, especially with these heat temperatures, storm season with Debbie just came through the whole East Coast. They're going to help you know what to ship, when to ship, how to ship it. The reptile people for reptile people. Go to REDLINE Shipping. You can use the promo code PROPER5, save yourself $5 off your next shipping label. And regardless of the $5 savings or not, I think you're going to appreciate it. Shedtesting.com. That is Charlie from Gray Rider Reptiles. I was giving Chris a little bit of a hard time earlier. It's so easy, man. You send Chris your shed. You go to his website, shedtesting.com. You choose the shed, the test that you want. You send it in. You don't have to jump through all the hoops. And let me tell you, the turnaround time is very, very fast. The service is fantastic. And you could talk to Charlie directly yourself. He's the guy, and he's been great. And I think it's wonderful to see what he's done for the industry, giving us an alternative. And frankly, I'm loyal and I enjoy him. For you guys, you can use the promo code PROPER15. You're going to get 15% off a whole order. You can order as many individual shed tests as you want per order, and you get to do it twice. So 2 orders, however many shed tests you want per order on the individual shed tests. So 15% off. That's pretty good savings there. RGen Reptiles is next. That's Robbie down in Spartanburg. I'm here in North Carolina. I regret he's like 40 minutes from me, but it's a crazy busy time. But one of these trips that I'm coming out here quarterly now for, are going to go down and hang out with Rob. Maybe I have to do an episode in person with Robbie. I got to check my notes because the hatchlings have started coming and everybody's got cool stuff. So check out Robbie's DG Clown clutches and combos. I believe he said DG Clown Fire and I forget the other one that was in there, but those are ready. He's got the little airplane emoji in the Instagram posts. So go check that out. If you go to rgenreptiles.com and send him an email, he'll put you on his email list, and the email list gets first dibs on the hatchlings. So that's Robbie at RGen Reptiles. Next, Portuguese pythons. That is Danny and Renee Rocha out in Chino, California, Inland Empire there. Hey, I hope everything's all right with the fires, with the earthquake. Man, you guys are great people, and I was thinking of you the other day. Every time I call to check in on you, guys are like, yeah, we're fine. So I hope that you're well. they have available right now on Morph Market Blackhead Ultramel combos and Ultramel Pied combos. And I have a 1.3 of Ultramel Pied project combos from them, Blackhead, Mojave, and what else? Trick Hurricane stuff in there as well. So I'm definitely a believer in their product. It's fantastic. Go check that out. They did make a post that only about half of their females have laid, and the clutches are just now getting close to ready to pip. So they still got everything in front of them this season. So keep an eye on that. Ball Labs, that's Trevor out in Aurora, Colorado. Trevor is working with any and every gene he can get a handle on. He loves finding obscure genes that maybe have been forgotten a little bit about or have kind of had a boom in the past and have a new opportunity now. He likes playing with new things. But along with that, he is working Puzzle, Monsoon, and Sunset. And speaking of rodents, in Colorado, much like Chris was describing formerly in Iowa, you have to have a permit and an inspection in Colorado to breed rodents and sell them. And there's only about 6 licenses in the whole state of Colorado. Trevor has one of those. He's doing it the right way. He's above water. He's inspected, and for all those reasons, I think he's worth doing business with. So check out Trevor at Ball Labs. I'll see him next month in Denver at the AARPE show. So looking forward to that. Last but not least is my breeding, not my breeding partner, my vending partner at Tinley. That is Chris at B and S Reptilia. The bull snakes have arrived. If you're interested in a bull snake, really high colors, go check out his Instagram post of this really cool clutch of bull snakes. Get in touch with Chris. It's called Reptilia because he deals in all sorts of different species. Ball pythons, blood pythons, locality boas, pituophis, that's the bull and the pine snakes, colubrids of all kinds, and he's just a massive resource of knowledge and support. He's the original sponsor of Proper Royals. I'm so happy years later to still be doing business with Chris. He will be at the table with me at Tinley, and we will have the bull snake permits for Illinois. We should be some of the only people in the room with those. So come on by the table, come check it out. You get to see us both in action. And tonight, hanging out with Chris, speaking of Chris's, hanging out with Chris at Wide River Reptiles out of Bettendorf, Iowa. If you haven't had a chance to check out what they have going on, you should. Great people doing big things. Like we just talked about, Chris last year had over 100 clutches of ball pythons, 1,000 rats a month weaning. That doesn't even count ASFs and mice. 5,000 square feet of rodents. So massive operation. Chris, it begs, all of this begs the question to me. Well, I'm going to throw my pen. Why keep your day job if you have all this going on? And I realize that the simple answer is you got to have money. Okay, cool. If all that isn't producing enough to make you quit your day job, why go through all that headache? Or, you know what I mean? Like where's this leading? What's the vision? Why keep it all going? Seems like so many plates to spin.
Yeah, so it is. It's a lot of plates to spin for sure. But like you said, my wife Jerri runs the snakes. I'm here to bounce pairing ideas off of and stuff like that. But it's her job. It's her full-time thing. So could both of us probably make a living off it? Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to or what have you. But I enjoy what I do for a living, which not too many people say. I'm a numbers guy. I work with numbers all the time. So in the banking world, I work with numbers all day long. And it's just something I enjoy doing. But this also is very enjoyable, but it started as a hobby, and then the wife's able to do it full time, Jerri, and then also down at the rodent facility, I'm able to employ a different family member that works full time for us, and to me, that's just as rewarding as doing it myself. If I'm just the one making sure things happen in an orderly fashion and running the numbers, and they're doing all the stuff, and as long as they're enjoying it. And again, our niece in the rodent facility, she gets excited talking about stuff when I've got last night when we were talking about this opportunity that might be come forth. I don't know if it will or not. You never know. She got excited and she's like, well, wanted to learn how I'm going to calculate that out. So that's what we were doing last night, was counting the rodents in the facility and calculating out, well, here, if you figure that they're going to have 1 litter every 8 weeks, just as a rough number, that's a low end, but we want to use it. And then figure just out how many we would need to produce, that, what they were looking for per week.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I enjoy the things, and if I can do just a little bit, so somebody else has employment or is doing what they want to do. I don't know. I'm just one of those people in the world that like to help others, and that's why I do it. It's weird. I know.
No. I think it's incredible, and I think it was always strange to me. There was always this weird, so as a numbers guy, and I sort of take some pride in my own numbers angles on things, and I've made also a separate career of consulting and largely remotely reviewing numbers and operations numbers with people. But when I was in management and I was in leadership, I found first a huge fulfillment in teaching and educating people. But one of my favorite quotes was always somebody said, it was like this cartoon, like comic thing, and it was this one type of businessman saying, well, what if we invest all this money in these people and then they just leave and work for somebody else? And then the other picture in the comic is the guy going, well, what if we don't invest in them and they stay? And so it's this gamble, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, at some point you got to trust people, and you never get to, I thought you breezed over it pretty quick, but there's a benefit too, to being the overseer that gets to teach and guide, and provide opportunity for other people. And that allows you the free time, not the free time, but the time to pursue career and things that you enjoy as well. So I like asking that question, because sometimes people are saying, well, I'm working this until I can get to X point and then jump ship. Everybody's got a little different drive and motivation. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. And, when we got in it, the whole thing was, well, if you got an ARS rack full of breeder size banana females, that's a 401k plan. Well, how quickly things change, right?
Yeah, that's right.
In this industry. So, but yeah, no, I do that at my job all day long, is manage people and guide them to get their job done. And I get to do it in the rodent and in the reptile industry also. It's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot.
From the you mentioned banking, from the banking industry, and particularly from an investment standpoint, did that teach you or reinforce you patience with the animals? Like, that's something I've had to remind myself sometimes. Like, most investment stuff, I get pretty excited over 8 to 12% a year. I'm pretty thrilled to hear most ball python breeders talk. If you told them, well, 8 to 12% is what you would gain, they would be like, that's not worth my time. Like, do you ever compare the two, or is it just totally different ball games?
It's totally different ball games to me.
You're like, nah, that's just completely different.
It's just, to me, it is. What we do here with the snakes is produce what we want. Make sure, we sell. Obviously, the goal is obviously to sell an animal. I don't produce, the clutches that I do just to hold them, because you'd go out of business. But I don't know. It's the wife having the free time to do what she needs to do with our family as they grew.
Yep.
Our son's out of the house now. Daughter's going to be a sophomore in high school. She helps a lot too with both businesses. And maybe one day we can transfer that down to one or both of them. I don't know.
Right.
That's always something I've wanted to do in my life. I grew up, my parents, my mom and my stepfather owned hardware stores when I was a kid. So I learned at an early age that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to work some hours. because we did that. And then before the snakes, I had an inflatable bounce house business and sold out of that, because it did. That was a lot of work on me, just because they're heavy and working all weekend to set those up. But anyway,
I was going to say that's like a grind by definition, or heavy to move, and you only work when other people are playing. Nobody's doing that at Tuesday at noon, are they?
No. So no, I enjoy the snakes, because like you said, the weekends getting up to Minnesota to meet you. Obviously we do the Tinley NARBC, the Schaumburg, the St. Louis NARBC, and so all those, definitely like getting out and talking to people.
Speaking of great people, Melanie at Buffalo Ridge there, they're great people out on the circuit.
Yeah.
Like you say, I was vending Minnesota this past weekend. They were actually there too. But yeah, it's become, when I moved from Florida to Minnesota, the thing that I miss the most is the music circuit, and either old bandmates or people I performed with, or some of the festivals are fun. You see, you get to see other musicians 3-4 times a year that you might not ever see otherwise. And the show circuit for the reptiles is really quickly kind of replacing that. Like, I really look forward to going and doing the shows and hanging out.
For sure. I mean, one of the things, here is, I said Jerri does a lot of it, and it's fun. And then when the eggs start to pip, that's when I get to see what all her hard work come to.
Then you go and get excited,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah. It's like, all right, what's coming out? So yeah, no, but she does a great job.
From so you're a numbers guy. This question might get me in trouble, not with you, but with all of us. We might cause a stir. You're a numbers guy. You're a numbers analyst by trade. How good or bad is the market actually right now for ball pythons?
It's hard right now for anything that's selling, and it's not just ball pythons. It's the economy as a whole, but that's a whole different conversation for a different world. But I want everybody to know that it's just not ball pythons. I don't want anybody to think, the ball python market's terrible. The economy as a whole right now is struggling, and I see that in the banking industry. Okay, so yes, things are down. Everything's down because people's disposable income and what's left after they pay their bills is down. And let's face it, what we produce here is not a necessity. It's not something you need to live. It's it's something you get to enjoy as an animal. And again, the same reason you see all the memes around Easter time: do not buy a rabbit for your kids, because in 5-6 months it's going to be on Facebook giving it away. So same idea is, if you're looking to get an animal, you need to have those resources to supply that animal with what it needs to live.
That's right.
And so to say the ball python market's down, between us breeders, I don't feel it is. I feel that, I've picked up some snakes, Ricardo up there at Breeder Circle. He's a great guy. I've talked to him a lot. So if between us breeders, if we got something that we want to buy from each other, we usually get it done.
Sure.
Or if there's something out there. Obviously, the new money when we're selling at shows and somebody's picking up a pet, that's what keeps us buying from each other, right? Because we get that money. And that's literally what happens at a show. Is somebody walks in, they spend $200 at my table. I walk over to your table, spend $200. You take that $200. You run over to Melanie that just made a comment. She spends $200. She spends that $200, and then eventually ends up in Joe's hand over at JSA. And we all think
it all goes to Joe. Yeah, we all give Joe the money.
So it just made that $200 just made it, and everybody got a different animal. And that's, unfortunately, right now that's down. So we feel that it's not, in our mind, we didn't move as many animals. But if we're just moving them between breeders, how many animals are we really moving in a sense?
True, yeah, for a net, I mean? Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it right now. That is that. And I don't want to dog on any show promoter or anything. The number of shows, the sheer number of shows, I think is hurting that also when we're doing the show. And I'll just give you an example of that. And I'm not trying to, again, that never happens.
Joe. Yeah, it's a lie, Joe. All fairness, Joe has been absolute gold to me. So I'm going to give my money to somebody. Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
But the sheer number of shows right now. So we used to vend in an area. I'm not going to do specifics because I don't want anybody dogging on anybody,
sure.
right?
Sure. Yep.
But there used to be 2 shows a year in that area. Okay. So, and one of these people that used to be a customer of mine and now is vends reptile shows, he's the one that we had this discussion. So that's why I want to bring up this discussion. I think it's a great point that we kind of talked about. So they would save their money for 6 months for the reptile show. And they would come to the reptile show. Well, now in that area, there are 9 reptile shows in the year. So if I'm a vendor and now I'm going out there 9 times and it's a place where I have to get a hotel room, my expenses have basically quadrupled to go do those shows. By table rentals, hotels, whatever, gas. If I was going twice and now I'm going 8, let's just use 8 because that's 4 times, right? So I quadrupled my expenses. But now the people aren't coming in and saving their money for 6 months, and then maybe they don't even come to the show because they're like, oh, there'll be another show in 6 weeks in the same spot. Then that, I think, in a sense, is putting the perception to us as vendors that maybe the sales aren't as good. Now, I'm not saying they're not as good right now. What I'm saying is the perception is different compared to when I only had to go out there and do 2 shows. And let's make up numbers. Let's say I sold $5,000, okay, worth of animals. Well, now that's divided over the next 4 shows. So now I'm only doing roughly $1,200, right?
Yeah.
But I had the same expenses for that $1,200 that I had for the $5,000. So
right, as a
in my mind perspective, that I am not doing good in sales. Well, I'm probably still doing okay in sales. It's the expenses that have increased. And I'm just using the shows as that. Okay. So that's a conversation we had. And I really think that resonates to what's happening in the ball python market right
now. So let me ask you this from a business standpoint, and thank you for sharing openly and I like considering this stuff because I think it's important to consider all the full context. Like you say, you might still have done the same revenue, but if your expenses quadruple, then it's the net at the end of the day because it's a lot more work and overhead. Wouldn't the market dictate though for the promoters that too many shows is from a, like, at the end of the day, the market wins, whether we like it or not. If they've done too many shows, eventually they're going to lose money from doing too many shows. Or is it that they're selling a different good or a different product? They're selling tickets at the door where people don't actually have to buy once they're in the door. Are they selling entertainment and we're selling goods?
Exactly what it is. And that's the way I feel about it. And the reason is I don't know if anybody has done anything outside of, but I've been to some other events where sometimes the vendors only pay table rentals and admissions free. We have something like that here in the Quad Cities, the fish swap. There's no attendance to get in it, right? And it's in the same facility we have the reptile show. So if that admission's free, that's telling me that just to get the revenue back for that area, they only really need to charge the table rent. Now, I'm not sitting here dogging on anybody's business. I don't want that way. I'm just saying that to me, if I'm a show promoter, and no matter if I do the show 4 times a year or twice a year or whatever, if I still get 2,000 people through that door, I've made my money, whether my vendor did or not.
That's right. Well, and I bring that up because I think I have some experience now, and again, numbers are data is a wonderful thing to look at, especially large samples of data. A lot of people say, man, Adam, you do a crazy amount of shows. Well, part of it's because I want to learn the market. If I learn enough to come to a conclusion, then I'll start to weed some of those out. And one location in particular, and like you say, I can't knock anybody, but people have to remember who their customers are. So if a promoter's customer are the vendors, then you got to really take into account what the vendors want. Just like I would say the vendors need to take into account what the animal buyers want. But I would say generally at this show, I see 30 to 50 people through the door. And this is not a knock on these people, but they're from a recovery halfway house. I want them to have a great day. I want them to succeed in their recovery. I even want them to enjoy the snakes. But you made a great point earlier. Even if somebody has the money to buy an animal that day, if they don't have the wherewithal to continue to care for it, they shouldn't buy the animal. And the reality is they're not going to buy it. So that's 50 tickets that the promoter sold. Let's just say it's $20 a pop. There's $1,000 in the promoter's pocket that we're not going to get anything from. And we're going to go through the headache of, I know I'd rather you not, and it has nothing to do with the person. I just don't like people petting. I don't like doing the petting zoo model of snakes. So it's weeding through that. It's taking up, if say I had the coolest looking, most amazing snakes, if I got 10 people that aren't buying crowded around my table, the buyers that might want to buy they're going right on to the next table kind of thing. So all that is good food for thought. And I think I can't figure out, because we're seeing a lot of new shows pop up right now, some of this sort of national thing, and they're good shows and they're by reptile people. They're reptile people doing reptile shows. I'm interested to see how all that shakes out over time. And we'll see. And markets change. Things change and evolve for sure.
Yeah. And it's just, though, as a vendor, we can't say, let's use Minnesota just for an example, because you said that, and I've vended up there, and unfortunately I haven't been up there lately because of some other stuff, not because of that show. I love that show. But the Minnesota show, is, where was I going with that? I've lost my train of thought.
Vendors or promoters looking out for vendors and vice versa, perhaps, or just considering who the customer is.
Yeah, I had something there and I totally spaced it off. And I apologize for that.
Well, that's okay. Trust me, I get it. I do this every Tuesday. It happens. So on the Minnesota show, and this is public knowledge. I think Jason at Cold Blooded does a fantastic job. I'm considering picking up the Kansas City show, which, to your point, would be a hotel. It would be a longer drive for me. He's in a pickle because of the venue he's got. There's 2 separate rooms, and people feel there's a have and a have not room, and it's no secret. Jason's got to figure that out. That's some vendors are going to like or dislike it, and I'm thankful. I'm happy where I'm at. That's my best show that I have, and I think people should come out to it. And it's a temporary situation, so it'll get fixed. But I hope it doesn't cost him to suffer along the way, And I think he knows he's got to work it out. There's no secret to it. So he knows that. But I think those are some things that people have to consider when it comes to vending in the market as well.
Yeah. Well, I remember where I was going with that is like the Minnesota show. I've done it a couple times, and once you start doing a show, the people that are buying from you expect you to be there. So in that area where I was talking about, which is, I want to be clear, is not Minneapolis area that I was talking about. But in the Minnesota show, though, if I don't get there once or twice during the year, and somebody says, "Where were you? Looking for you," blah blah blah, then you feel bad as a vendor because that's the one show where you would have done really well. And you weren't there. So, the sheer number of shows is unfortunately making myself, just because I do work the full-time job, and that is making me choose and pick which shows I'm doing, which I really don't want to do. But unfortunately, that's where we're at right now with the sheer number of shows that are out there.
Right. Well, and I guess to circle back to what I was saying, where I've done enough in the regional market now, I'm at the point where I'm going, okay, these are my bottom 3 consistently. They stick out like a sore thumb. I can see I've done 15, 18 shows, and these are always at the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna cut those out, and I'm gonna look for. It was interesting. I haven't done it. I was talking to the local vendors at the Minneapolis show, asking who was going to the snake discovery show, and almost everybody in the room I asked said, "No, we're going to Omaha this weekend." I was like, "I haven't done Omaha. I got to learn about. I want to go. I want to go experience it and learn." Whether it makes sense for me, that's a hotel night. That's a lot of time away from the house, away from the animals. Same with I think there's one in Fargo. I'm like, that seems. And apparently, it's the only show there, and it's once a year. So, to your point about people saving their money, man,
that might
maybe
be a good
I
show.
need to. I know, maybe I got to get in on the Fargo show. So I'm still learning and seeing, but to the point, I guess, of collecting data and experience, and then making decisions based off of it has been. When people say, "Man, you're nuts for the shows you do," I go, "I'm not just doing them to bang my head against the wall. I'm doing them to learn, and I'll figure this out," kind of thing. So, Chris, where can people find you? Where can they find you virtually on the internet, and where can they find you in person, man?
Facebook and Instagram for the Wide River Reptiles. Facebook generally for Reptile Bistro for the rodents. And then in person, we're obviously we're in Davenport area, the Quad Cities part. We're in Bettendorf, but Davenport part of the Quad Cities. So we're at the Davenport show here. It's 7 blocks from the house. So you speaking of not having to go far.
There you go. You could do revenue, or you could cut your expenses, and ideally exactly. You do both, right? Yeah.
Right. So we do that one religiously. We do Glenn's show out in Omaha twice a year. We do that show religiously. The Nebraska Reptile Breeders Expo, NARBC, and then the NARBCs. The other ones, like the Minnesota couple of show me's that are out there. We just do those when we have time, and we can get there. So that's where you can definitely find us.
Great.
My website I don't keep up on, so don't check that out.
Okay. Well, Chris, if I don't see you before then, I'll for sure see you at Tinley, which actually isn't that. It's 2 months away. We're like 60 days away from Tinley already.
He'll be here, and I'll be ordering ReptiChip, running the ReptiChip booth, and be ordering all that product for that. And yeah.
We didn't even get to the dry goods and the coco revenue, so you gotta come back. We gotta do this again, Chris.
I'll be happy to come back.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. Audience, thanks for hanging out tonight. I will see you guys at the Snake Discovery Show in Eau Claire this weekend, and then I'll be closer to your neck of woods. I'll be in the Des Moines Cold-Blooded Show with Jason, the promoter we were just talking about, the following weekend. So hope to see you all out there. I'll be back at home base next week, same place, same time. Chris, thank you so much for being here, and I will see everybody soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, stay on for just a second, Chris. All right, good night, everybody. See you next time.